Our GI tract in both men and women has estrogen receptors. People don't know that. So the liver breaks estrogen down, it deactivates it, it sends it into your GI tract in bile so that your body can get rid of it. But if your gut health is out of balance and you have an overgrowth of bad bacteria instead of good bacteria in there, those bad bacteria can reactivate the estrogen and cycle it back into your body. Great. It's like a game of freeze tag, right? Like somebody freezes you and you're supposed to go out, but then somebody comes along and tag, you're unfrozen and you come back into the game. So this estrogen that should be leaving your body that we don't want comes back in, and then we get something, estrogen dominance. I know people don't like using that term anymore. Basically, it's you have more estrogen than you do progesterone, which causes AKA estrogen dominance. But it's like just one little fun fact about how your gut health can impact your hormonal health.
I love it. That's fantastic. And by the way, like I've heard a lot of explanations of how your GI tract works, and freeze tag was by far the best explanation. All right. Welcome back, Flourish or Fold, Stories of Resilience listeners. We are so happy you're here because if you have spent even a fraction of a second on the Beachbody platform, you have seen #1 super trainer, Autumn Calabrese, in one of her many programs. Maybe you did 21-day fix, maybe you did 80-day obsession, maybe you've been part of her Fixate program. But that's not where her expertise ends. In fact, she's also a celebrity fitness trainer, a mom, a best-selling author, and she's gone from living paycheck to paycheck as a personal trainer to having built her fitness empire. How impressive is that? Welcome, Autumn.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that incredible introduction. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so happy you're here. I practiced in front of the mirror sometimes before we got together to like really get it right. I was super excited to share just a high level of so many of the ways that you've contributed in the world.
Thank you. You nailed it.
Yes. Well, and what some of our listeners may not know is that in fact, I think I told you this, that I did 80-day obsession. And I was just like, how am I going to get through this program? Let alone you're up front and like not only doing everything that we're doing, but like walking us through it and giving us motivational messages. And it's so clear to me how people are very interested in following your programs, how they gravitate to you because you do have an incredible ability to put yourself in the shoes of the person who's part of your program and just like speak directly to them. Like so many times when I was doing 80-day obsession, I was like, I want to quit this thing, and it's like, I just felt like you were talking directly to me. It was absolutely incredible. You have such a gift for that.
Thank you so much. I mean, it really is important to me to show people that I'm not any different, right? There's like nothing superhuman about me. There's nothing, I might be at a different stage in my fitness journey, but we all had to be a beginner before we could be good. And before we could be great, we've got to be good. So you have to take all of those steps, beginner, intermediate, advanced, expert, to get there. So when I try to hopefully make sure I get the point across that when people are showing up on day one of 80-day obsession or any other one of my programs, it's not my day one. I've spent a year plus sometimes creating that program, practicing that program, perfecting it so that when I deliver it, I can deliver those motivational moments and inspirational times and I can keep the people going. But that doesn't mean that on your day one, you won't struggle and fumble just like I did if I were to show you all of the behind the scenes making of. But yeah, it's really just about saying we're all just on this journey together to just get a little bit better every single day. So I try to make sure that I'm not putting up some perfect persona because that would be anything but truthful.
Yeah. Yeah. That authenticity that you have is so captivating. I love it. And one of the things that we were talking about before we hit record and came on together was the sort of authenticity of or vulnerability of struggle, and I think you really hit the nail on the head because it's an interesting place to live these days on social media, where if you come across as not having any struggles and having it all figured out, as you said, um, people sort of say, "Well, I'm not going to listen to you because you've never struggled," you know. And then when we talk about our struggles and our challenges, people are like, "Well, clearly you don't have it figured out because you've got a struggle or a challenge," and so maybe in some ways it's tough to win with all the folks and perspectives out there. And yet, this is a show about giving us, sort of a peek behind the curtain into some of the challenges that you've faced and how those challenges have led you down your path and made you into the person, into the woman that you are today. And so as you kind of think about some of those formative challenges and moments that you've had over the course of your life, is there one that kind of stands out to talk about and how that's formed you into the person you are today?
So when we were talking about me coming on and we were talking about what would be that struggle that I would share, it was actually, I had to really sit down with it and think, because in some ways there's so many, and in other ways I've reframed my struggles so much, like in the language around it, that I almost had to come back and be like, what is it? What would I share? I know there's so many over my whole life. Um, if I go back to the first biggest thing and maybe the longest impacting thing, it was my parents and my childhood, and having parents that didn't live up to what I guess I would say I wanted from my parents, or that you would expect. There was a lot of, my parents divorced when I was very young. I was 2, so I don't remember them together, but my parents also continued to fight and not get along for many years after that. So I do remember that very well. Um, I was raised by my dad. By the time I was 7, my mom remarried and moved out of state and had kids with her new husband, my brother and sister, who I love to death, but like was very not involved with myself, my older brother and sister, which was very hard for your mom to just sort of go and start a new life and not be there when you needed her for all of your adolescent growing up years. And my dad did the best that he could, but my dad has many of his own struggles and his own demons, and could be very verbally abusive at times and physically abusive at times. And it that overcoming that's the life, like those are the two people impacting who you will become and how you will show up in the world. So I feel like from a very young age, I was learning a lot on my own, even of who do I want to be? How do I want to show up? How don't I want to show up? What
Mm-hmm.
am I going to do with my life to live the life that in my mind I imagine and I dream of? Because I wasn't being shown that. I was being shown a lot of struggle from my parents, but I wasn't being shown what I could achieve. In fact, if anything, I'm the youngest out of my older brother and sister and myself. And I was always the one that was sort of, Autumn's cute. Autumn's full of energy. Autumn just likes to dance around the house. I wasn't the super book smart one. I wasn't even the most talented one at the time, so I don't think there was a lot of expectation for what I would do with my life.
Mm-hmm. Mm. And so let's talk about that because um, today there's all kinds of pressure that we're putting on kids to perform and to be in travel sports leagues, very young, however you define very young. I'd say like anything before 10's pretty
Mm-hmm.
young.
Yeah.
Um, and then on the other hand, people are like, we can't be giving out participation trophies to everyone because then they'll just, think they don't have to do anything. All you have to do is show up and you get a trophy, and that's not what life is, right? So, you didn't feel like you had any expectations placed upon you. And then you were starting to explore some of your natural talents and interests related to dance. And so how would you say not having expectations placed upon you, how did that impact you?
Yeah, I think here's the thing. It wasn't a positive not having expectations. I think when your parents have, like, there's a certain level that is good to have expectations of your children, for them to get good grades and do well and have a direction without being overbearing and over controlling and sort of taking childhood away. But when I say they didn't have expectations, I feel like they didn't imagine I would do big things with my life. I was,
Mm,
it was like Autumn was the dancer. I don't think they ever imagined that I would go get the dream that I said I had from when I was 7 years old. When I was like 7, I grew up in Ohio, Cleveland, Ohio. When I was 7, I was saying I was going to move to Los Angeles. I knew where I was going. I knew I wanted to be in the public eye. I ended up in the public eye differently than I thought, because I thought it would be dancing and acting, but I ended up doing it with fitness, which is even better, because I always wanted, I think movies and things like that inspired me. Dance inspires me so much. And I wanted to give that feeling back. I
mm,
don't think my parents had that expectation that I would do it or could do it.
mm,
Um, as a parent myself, I am very encouraging to my son Dominic of what he is capable of, even when he doubts it, and fostering that, but without fostering it where my expectations become his direction. Like, I want to foster what his dreams are. So my son picked up a skateboard when he was 4 years old and was instantly very good at it. Wanted to be at skate parks and was dropping into 20-foot bowls when he's 7 and 8 years old, taking years off of my life. And for a moment, he wanted to go to the X Games. And it was like, okay, are we going to end up at the X Games? I don't know, but who am I to say you're not? So for years, he was on the skateboard. He was taking skate lessons. We were at the skate park. Ultimately, he didn't continue to pursue it, but that was his choice. And I wouldn't be the one to go, you started this, now this is where we're going. He was on that board for as long as he wanted to be on that board. And when he didn't want to be on that board anymore, we were done on that board. He did the same thing with horseback riding lessons. He did them for a year, got on that horse, and instantly talented at it. And my kid is like that. He picks things up very quickly. And his trainers were just like, we've never seen this. He's doing things in the first month that we've had adults training to do for a year, and they can't get on these horses. And these horses would just take to my son. And we were talking about him competing. He was jumping horses. He took a couple bad falls, none of which actually happened when he was in the middle of riding. Horses got spooked 2 different times. And it was enough for him to say, no, okay, that's it. Like, if he's done, then we're done. Because he's exploring and he's learning. And I think that's what childhood is about exploring and learning. But with my parents not having big expectations on me, what I will say is that for me, I have a feisty personality. And if anything, it probably brought that out more, where in my mind, I was saying, you'll see. You'll see what
mm,
I can do. I know what I can do. And that has always been there. And that, I really do believe, is why I am where I'm at in my life, in my career, because I've been the underdog my whole life. I've been told I couldn't my whole life, or I wouldn't. And I just always have this, you'll see, I'll
mhm,
show you
mm.
mentality towards it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fascinating. Because without someone in your life, and maybe there were people later on to say, like, I believe in you, you can do this, to validate your dreams, to, push you in a meaningful way toward what you envisioned for yourself. It sounds like really that gumption and that vision for the future, like, came from within you. And
Yeah, a lot of it did. Yeah. I will say my dance teachers growing up were phenomenal. And while I was never the best dancer in class, they never made me feel in any way like I couldn't do it. I was on the competition team, I was right there. And so I do think that dance and I was in a healthy environment. I was really blessed because I know a lot of people growing up didn't have that same experience in the dance community. But I was really blessed to have two amazing teachers that really fostered positivity in my abilities and made me feel like, yes, I can go do that.
that's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Let's talk about fitness for a moment. What was that transition for you? You started out thinking that you were going to be a dancer. You grew up with incredible instructors, and here you are now. A couple of decades later, you've got an incredible footprint in the fitness community. How did that transition occur for you from dancing to fitness?
So it's actually interesting. While I grew up with amazing dance teachers, when I went to college and was a dance major, I got what I think a lot of kids got at a younger age, which was the exact opposite. The head of my dance department, who was also the ballet master at my school, was the exact opposite of positive or fostering or nurturing or anything like that. 3 years in, 3.5 years in, every bit of self-esteem and confidence that I had was wrecked and gone.
Mm.
I was told I wouldn't be allowed to graduate with my degree no matter what, because to graduate with your dance degree or I was actually going for my bachelor in the fine arts with an emphasis in dance. You had to dance in the final showcase. He refused to cast me in it. So this is the person that I auditioned for, that welcomed me into the school, that I showed up and did all my classes for, and decided we butted heads, and he decided he wasn't going to let me graduate, period. Which was so infuriating. It's all that money, all that time. I was dealing with a bulging disc in my lower spine at the time. Like I was dancing and performing with my knees killing me, my back killing me, and all of it was being disregarded. And yeah, he called me into his office one day and he said, in order to graduate, you have to be cast in the final show. And I'm not going to cast you. So basically, he was telling me, you might as well leave college because you're not going to finish here. And so I did. I left with a semester to go. I don't have my degree, but I don't have my degree not because I didn't put in all the work. I don't have my degree because somebody had a power hungry control and wasn't going to let me finish it. So this is one of those moments of resilience and overcoming. When I left school, I was broken, like in every way, physically, mentally, emotionally. I didn't know what I was going to do. I was in St. Louis at the time. I packed my car. I drove across the country. That's when I moved to LA. And I was waiting tables. I was auditioning, mostly acting. I wouldn't step foot in a dance class. I didn't step foot in a dance class for 2 years. I wouldn't go on a dance audition. When I finally went back to dance class, I put myself back in a Jazz 1 class, which makes no sense when you just were in college as a dance major. But I can't tell you how many times I would literally get dressed for dance class and not walk out the door and go because I just felt like I had nothing. I wasn't good enough. And it was a slow build when I finally got back into dance class here in LA. I happened upon another amazing dance teacher who was only a few years older than me, but he was great. And I started in his Jazz 1 class. And after a few classes, he was like, what are you doing in this class? Like, come to the night class. Like, you need to be in the advanced class. So I would go to that and I made good friends. And I eventually got my personal training certification. And the reason I got my personal training certification was I was tired of waiting tables. I knew that that wasn't a career path. That was paying the bills, but that wasn't a career. And I needed something, and I knew I didn't belong behind a desk. In fact, I was working as a casting director's assistant for several months. And I was like, this cannot be the rest of my life behind a desk. I have to move. I have to interact. That was when I got certified through the National Academy of Sports Medicine. And so many people would say, like, why don't you go teach dance? And I would just say, I can't. if I ever dance again, this is what I would say. If I ever dance again, it has to be personal. It has to be for me. It can't be for anybody else. Like, I can't have the pressure. I didn't have it in me. And in fact, several years later, I got my personal training certification. I started doing that, ended up with Beachbody. And my fourth program with the company is called Country Heat. It's a very basic dance program to country music. And even that program ended up being very therapeutic because even though it is the most basic, I mean, it's barely dancing. Like, it's steps, which is great, which is what makes it fun. It's very simple. But the whole process made me go through all the trauma that I had gone through in college with dance. And I had to start to overcome it, because if I didn't, the program wasn't going to get made. But the second, like, if my boss would be critical on something or things like that, man, I would just, like, I would either snap with anger or I would buckle in tears. And it was, I mean, funny, quick story. There was one time we were pretty deep in it, creating all the dances, all of the stuff. I was pretty exhausted. My boss came in to watch, and he was annoyed at what we showed him that we were doing, not because it was bad, but because he thought he was going to see something from what would be the beginning of the program. I showed him something from what would be the end of the program. It was a miscommunication. He kind of bit my head off a little bit. And I looked at him and I was like, we're done talking now. And I start crying, which is not something you say to your CEO. And I walk away crying, and he comes in and he was like, what is going on? And I was like, I am this close to throwing myself down the effing stairs so I don't have to do this program. And he knows me at this point. It had been 4 years. He knew me very well. He knew all of the trauma was coming up. And he was like, I'm not mad. You did great. It was a miscommunication. Like, everything's good. But it was the start of being able to overcome those 3.5 years of, I would say, sort of emotional and mental abuse in college, of just being told that nothing was ever good enough.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what courage you had to go back into the dance studio, where your trauma had occurred, and you're effectively creating a program at the same time that you're facing your own unresolved trauma.
Yeah, well, I had gone back to the dance studio. It was about 4 years earlier. Like, I took 2 years off completely. I finally started dancing again. So I was in a good place. But this is where the difference lied. That was me going back and dancing for myself. When I was asked to dance and create, and I knew it was for other people and things like that, the pressure was so much. And am I good enough was so much. When I was going and taking dance classes, it really didn't matter if I was good enough, because I was just doing it for me. But the second I knew I would be judged, right? Because anytime you put out a program, of course, it's going to be judged. The second there was that's when at that point, I thought I had already dealt with it. And it wasn't until we started creating that program that I realized, like, oh, I'm really not over this, like, at all. Like, I've got a lot more that I'm going to have to work through.
Yeah. Said everyone who's experienced trauma ever.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, I thought I was done with this, but I'm not. I'm just going a layer deeper that I hadn't anticipated.
Exactly. Yeah.
What about for your boss to, I mean, like, he could have had a variety of reactions. Obviously, you said you had a relationship. He'd known you for 4 years. You're like, we're done talking. You burst into tears. Like, he could have had a variety of, call it unproductive reactions, but it sounds like he comes after you and he, like, really wants to know, like, okay, what's going on? Are you okay? I didn't mean it. It was a miscommunication. Did having someone who responded to you in that way, was that helpful as part of your healing process?
Oh gosh, yeah, because he could have had any reaction. It could have been a very different CEO. I will say that for him, Carl is an amazing CEO, and he is a very caring CEO. Like he knows where he can push his talent to, and he also knows when he needs to be very supportive of his talent. So yes, we were having a miscommunication and there was pushing happening. And then very quickly he realized this is not the moment to be pushing. And yeah, it was, because I could talk and express what I was feeling and what I was dealing with. And I could get the reassurance that I needed that it wasn't awful. It wasn't going to suck. He wasn't going to be disappointed or pull the plug on the program. Because those are all things that you fear when you're in the middle of creating it. Is it going to be good enough? Are people going to like it? Will it be fun? Will it work? Is he going to end up thinking that it's not good enough and not worth putting the money behind to finish creating? So yeah, to have somebody where you can talk through it's very important, I think. And I think we all need that, whether it's a boss or a friend or a parent or a significant other. We live in this world where we don't always give each other that space to effectively communicate how we're feeling so that it doesn't turn into a bigger argument.
Yeah.
Right. It doesn't turn into a bigger problem. It's like sometimes if you just hear what the person is really going through, or recognize that maybe when somebody's having a meltdown or anger, that something else is being triggered, and you let them get there, we can help somebody heal instead of just tearing them down worse.
Right. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I've seen this obviously with other people in my life, and I've seen it with myself, where, gosh, it feels so real in the moment. But if I can look at that moment and I can say, okay, my reaction, the reaction that I'm having to whatever's happening does not match the circumstances that are occurring. Like my reaction is much bigger than these circumstances would call for. That's been a wonderful clue to me that some kind of trauma or pain has been triggered, and I'm responding in the present moment to something that happened in the past.
Yes, that is something for me that I've learned more recently. I actually learned it, I would say, from Tony Robbins, where he says, see the problem for what it is, but not worse than it is. And for me, I have over the last couple of years, and after hearing just that statement, I will often be like, is my reaction equal to what is happening? No, I'm making it worse than it is. And then I have to ask myself why. Because yes, like you said, it's usually I'm being triggered by something. I'm usually having those feelings of not good enough or not being understood or heard. And that's where the bigger reaction will come from.
Right. Okay, so let's talk about this not being good enough. Like, I am a card carrying, it's never good enough, right? Like, if I worked out, it wasn't for long enough. If I didn't work out, then I should have gone to the gym. If I worked this many hours, it should have been longer. If I did these things, well, I should have done these other ones, right? And so I've really been orienting toward this script in my head where just like, I never get to win. No matter what I do, it never seems like good enough. And I never just get to be like, oh, you did a good job. I wonder if you found some, just like in your own travels, like how have you faced down this, it's never good enough voice in your head?
I would say that is one I still work on a daily basis. I'm very aware of it, but I am a perfectionist. You're card carrying not good enough. I am a card carrying perfectionist, and there's no such thing. I'm going to steal from Tony Robbins again. He says that perfectionism is the lowest standard you can have for yourself because it's not a real standard, because being perfect doesn't exist. So that was another phrase that really hit me, where I was like, I'm doing all these things perfect, but really all I'm doing is setting myself up to not be good enough, because nothing is perfect. There's no such thing. So I really work to say, did I give that all I had today? So was my effort in, like, if I'm going to do a workout, what energy do I have for that workout today? Do I have 100%? Because if I wake up and I feel great and I've got 100% to give, then did I give whatever my 100 was today? Yes, I did. Great. good job me. If I wake up and I've got nothing, I'm exhausted, I didn't sleep, the dogs woke me up, and I don't go do the workout that was scheduled for the day, but I go take a 2-mile walk because the energy I had was 30% and that's all I had to give, I have learned to be proud of myself for, one, recognizing that my body didn't have it to give that day instead of beating myself down physically, and two, doing something that was restorative to help get me back to a higher percentage to be able to give more. So I've really started to look for those small wins where I can be proud of myself for the energy or the effort that I have put forward. Doesn't mean I don't still fall back into the perfectionist ways. I'm in it right now. I'm actually in the development on a program, and this is really fun. The creative process is super fun for me, but in the workout, it's a puzzle. As I build the workout, it's a puzzle to make sure that all the pieces are there for how we're training the body and being effective in our movement. And okay, by the time they get to month 2, did I do everything I needed to do in month 1 for them to be able to effectively do the movement that I'm asking them to perform in month 2? And sometimes you got to go back and be like, well, I'm missing something. And I caught myself over the weekend, actually, where I was like, you're being ridiculous now. Like, this is very solid, and you can go back over this 100 times, and 100 times you can change it. And all 100 will be great. Like, you have it at a great point, Autumn, enough. Like, because that's my perfectionism. Oh, I could tweak it a little more. I could make it a little better. I could make it a little harder. And at some point, you've got to be okay with where it's at. I don't love the saying good enough is good enough. I will say that. That saying bugs me. Like when people, because I've had it said to me a lot, like, Autumn, sometimes good enough just has to be good enough. And I'm like, oh, how dare you? How dare you say that? Like, but that's one of those moments where I really have to ask, action appropriate. Sometimes that reaction is appropriate. Like, no, we're not going to half-ass this. We're going to make sure that it's right. And other times I'm like, yeah, we're good. Like, come on. Now you're just doing it to torture yourself at a certain point.
Yeah. Or subscribe to some unattainable standard, right? I remember when I was at Nike, so Bill Bowerman, as I'm sure you know, and many people know, he was Phil Knight's track coach. And so when Phil Knight went into business initially at Nike, who do you bring into business with you? Well, you bring in your coach. Like, certainly this guy knows, what's going on. And I'm sure you know some of the stories. I'll just repeat them for our audience. Bill was really one of the early sort of like sneaker tweakers. I just made up with that phrase, by the way. But, he was like the guy that like put the rubber in the waffle iron and like made the waffle sneakers and was measuring, his athletes' feet. And so anyway, there's a sort of a mural at Nike, and it says, "Perfection is a luxury we cannot afford." That was a quote from Bill Bowerman. And that was so striking for me when I was working out at Nike in Portland, Oregon, because I remember, sort of thinking, okay, Taryn, so, the folks that were the founders of Nike, like, they made some money, and so if they can't afford perfection, like, certainly it's not part of, what I should be expending, my energy on. And it's really hard, I think, especially when you've grown up in environments where you've been underestimated, to say that something is good enough, because I think it can feel like, not that we need to prove ourselves, but like, it's got to be as good as it can be.
Right. Like if it's not, they're going to see that. For me, a lot of times it kind of comes to that imposter syndrome a little bit of like, they're going to see that I wasn't the smartest one. I'm not the fittest one. I'm not the da-da. And then I'm like, wait a minute, you're right, Autumn, you're not. And that's okay. Like, that's not the goal. The goal is to just help people find a way to manage healthy lifestyles, enjoy it, get a little bit better every day. I'm not the scientist writing the book. I'm the person that loves to read the book that the scientist wrote.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I just think it's one of those ways that where we get caught up in they're going to see through me that I wasn't the best, or I'm not the best, or I don't deserve to be where I'm at.
Yeah. Oof. Deserve. That's a big word. Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Let me ask you a question. This is something, for me that I've been thinking about, as a working mom. I'm like, I don't think I can get it all in during the day. Right? It's like, okay, so I'm supposed to wear like the red light mask, and I'm supposed to moisturize and have like a skincare routine, and I'm supposed to do the 10,000 steps, and then there's also like the weight bearing exercise and the lifting weights, and then I'm supposed to eat the healthy food that I either thought ahead and prepared or like purchased from someplace. What else am I supposed to do? Brush my teeth, floss my teeth, deep condition my hair, put on the glycolic acid. It just like, I'm like, I feel like fitness and self-care, all the things we're supposed like drink all the water, meet my protein goals. I'm like, this is like a full-time job. How do I do all of this amidst having a family and working? So I'm curious for you, Autumn, do you have a way that you've sort of hacked into finding how you fit the components of that are important to you into your daily routine?
Yeah. So here's the thing. And I think this is really important to remember. It's a lot of it is about the language we're using around it. There are certain things we're going to do in the day no matter what. We're going to eat. You're going to eat food in the day. So it's your choice whether you're eating healthy food that serves your body, your energy level, your health, or if you're eating unhealthy food. But nonetheless, you're going to eat food. So, right, we go, oh my gosh, how do I have time for the eat the healthy meal or whatever? Well, you're going to go to the grocery store. So what did you put in the cart? Did you put a bunch of junk food, which makes it significantly harder to eat the healthy food? Or did you put a bunch of healthy food, which makes it pretty easy because that's what's in the house, right? Like if the junk food isn't there, you don't really have much of a choice. The healthy food is there. And I would venture just as many, if not more healthy, fast options, snack foods, fruit and veggies and hummus and guac and dips and things like that are super fast and easy to grab. Um, we're going to get up, we're going to brush our teeth, we're going to take showers. So, do you have to do a skincare routine every night or the hair thing every night? That's a personal preference, I feel like. I enjoy those things because I know those are like my unwind time. But I guarantee if we picked these up and we started to look at the amount of time we're on that screen for, you could find a lot of hours for getting the steps in and getting the workout in. And not everything has to happen every day. I do believe that is where so many of us get caught up. I have to do everything every day. Well, yes, you have to eat every day. Yes, you have to drink things every day. So drinking water is going to be the better option compared to drinking sodas or juices or things high in sugar and caffeine. So like I always have a water bottle with me everywhere I go. You will never find me without one. In fact, there's usually like two around my house. It's at my nightstand. It's there when I go to bed. It's there when I wake up. It comes with me everywhere. It's but it is about prioritizing it and making it a lifestyle. So if it's something new to you, it's going to feel awkward because it's not part of your daily routine. But when all those things are a part of your daily routine, it's just that it's routine. You get up, you brush your teeth, you wash your face. I put on the workout clothes, I come down, I make the matcha, I go outside, I cold plunge, I have my breakfast, I work out. I mean, it's all done before 8 a.m. usually, sometimes 9 if I am moving a little slower. And then the workday starts. And then when I get up to have lunch, it's a healthy meal. And I've got my dog, so the dog gets walked, so the steps get in. But it's conscious efforts that I've made over the years to build those routines. I feel like we're in this time where everybody wants the result without the work. Mm-hmm. They do want the quick fix. Well, I don't have time for it. Well, I don't have time for it. No, you do. You might not want to make time. You might not want to give up the 2 hours in front of the TV at the end of the night because you're tired. But I bet if you ate a little healthier, practiced some stress management, went to bed a little earlier, you might have energy to not sit down in front of that TV for 2 hours and zone out. Instead, after dinner, you might go take a really nice walk where you talk to your kid with you or your significant other. You might find a lot of joy in like energy receiving from that kind of activity. but you have to make the conscious choice to do it first,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
to be a little
Yeah.
uncomfortable before it becomes comfortable.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I know you've heard this phrase, but I think it's powerful when people say, I don't have time, right? To instead say, it's not a priority
Hmm.
and see how that feels.
Yeah, feels very different when you say, my health isn't a priority. Because when you don't eat right, when you don't drink water, when you don't move your body, when you don't get enough sleep, all you're saying is, my health isn't a priority. That's very different than I don't have time. Because we're all busy. We all live very busy lives. We all have big goals that we want to accomplish and responsibilities that we have to take care of. And I say this all the time. I feel like people look at where I'm at now and they think, well, it's easy for her. She gets paid to do it. But before I ever got paid to do it, I had to not get paid to do it. I had to do it so that I could be seen as the person who will lead others to hopefully do it. I had to prove to the CEO that I'm living the lifestyle and doing the things, living paycheck to paycheck, being the single mom, living in the apartment, taking care of all the things on my own before I got to live in the big house and do all the other things. And while some people might think, oh, she's got all the time in the world, believe it or not, my schedule is way busier now. My schedule requires way more sitting behind this computer than it ever did when I was a personal trainer. And I could be up and moving and getting those things in. So it takes more planning, more conscious effort now when it is
Mm.
my career to do it than it did when I was the personal trainer.
So you've had a number of programs over the years, and I showed you this one when we got together. I think I've got like an original copy here
Yeah.
of Fixate. So many great recipes in here. I mean, everything just looks delicious for those of you that are watching this on video. Incredible cookbook. And I love how you have been teaching people about portion control. I've got a couple of my containers here, but you've got a new program coming out, which I think is so timely about women and hormone health. And I'm going to tell you a secret. I'm 45, so I might just be a year or two older than you are. So I'm right there in the perimenopause. I feel the metabolism slowing down. It feels harder to keep the weight off or lose any kind of weight that comes on. So I love that you've created this hormone health program for women, and I'd love for you to share more with us about it.
Yeah, I can share a little bit. We're not quite at the point where I can talk super detailed about it, but I'm very excited about it. I am 43. I'll be 44 in September. So I get it. But here's the biggest thing I want to say. It is not just for women our age, perimenopause and menopause. I was very adamant when I said I wanted to create a hormone health program that I wanted it to be for women of all ages, really, because more and more I was watching younger and younger women struggle with hormone health, with infertility, and just all these different symptoms. And you're seeing people in their 20s and going, wow, wait, what is happening? Like, are our bodies just not working anymore? Because we were made to work. And for me, I would say I probably started to experience some of it when I turned 40, didn't quite realize that it was hormones going out of balance. Was probably 42 when I really realized, like, oh, things are going crazy out of nowhere, and started digging into the research and the science. And it's, while always working with your doctor is a great idea, we have so much power in our own hands, and we tend to hand our power over quite quickly to just the medical world, professionals and things like that, or we just give it up to age. We let our power go and say it's age. And really, there is so much that is in our control. Again, what we were saying with sleep, with stress management, with just drinking your water, with eating healthy food more than you're eating junk food. These things make a significant impact on your overall health, but also your hormone health, your gut health, your energy levels. It's all connected. And so when you don't feel good, when your stomach hurts and gas and bloating and irregular bowel movements and your energy sucks and you have brain fog and you're exhausted, but you can't sleep. And so it's very hard to start to go, well, let me get up and work out, right? Because you don't feel good and you don't have the energy. So sometimes you're going to have to be a little uncomfortable while you work to get to the point where you can feel better. When you already feel awful, yes, does it suck to have to get up and work out? Are you tired? Of course. But if you start to make the small changes, here's the good news. Our bodies are miraculous machines that actually can heal themselves very quickly. So it's not, oh my gosh, I'll feel better 6 months from now. It's, wow, I've made these changes and in 6 days, I can start to feel better. We're in the middle of testing the program I wrote. We always test it before it goes out to the public. And so we're starting week 6 of the program right now. But I've got 46, 47 women of all different ages going through it. And what I can say was in just the first week alone, what I saw, my mind was blown. Because while I know making these shifts make a huge difference, just in the first week, I was looking at the progress pictures that the women were sharing, and I was like, what is happening? The amount of inflammation gone, the brightness in their face, the brightness in the eyes, the amount of weight that they were dropping without obviously being hungry in any way, shape, or form, them reporting better sleep and energy improving just within the first couple of days. So the good news is that, like I said, we don't have to wait months to feel better. And I was actually just talking to somebody about it today. They're like, okay, but what can I do right now? Like, I know the program's coming later, but what can I do right now? And one of the biggest things that,
what can we do right now?
Right now, gut health. Listen, gut health is so important. And obviously 2 years ago, I launched 4-Week Gut Protocol. It's a program designed to help improve the health of your gut. That is what I'm telling you could do right now. It plays a major role in our health in general, but it plays a major role in our hormonal health. I was just writing something for my newsletter, and I was explaining that our GI tract in both men and women has estrogen receptors. People don't know that. So the liver breaks estrogen down, it deactivates it, it sends it into your GI tract in bile so that your body can get rid of it. But if your gut health is out of balance and you have an overgrowth of bad bacteria instead of good bacteria in there, those bad bacteria can reactivate the estrogen and cycle it back into your body. Great. It's like a game of freeze tag, right? Like somebody freezes you and you're supposed to go out, but then somebody comes along and tag, you're unfrozen and you come back into the game. So this estrogen that should be leaving your body that we don't want comes back in, and then we get something, estrogen dominance. I know people don't like using that term anymore. Basically, it's you have more estrogen than you do progesterone, which causes AKA estrogen dominance. But it's like just one little fun fact about how your gut health can impact your hormonal health. We're only as healthy as the food that we can absorb, not the food that we eat, the food that we can absorb. So if your gut lining is, if you have permeability in there, because again, overgrowth of bad bacteria, inflammation, eating foods causing sensitivity, you can eat all the healthy food you want. If you can't absorb it, it's doing nothing for you because your hormones need those nutrients to be made and to work properly. So people don't realize everything is connected. So you can start working on your gut health right now. Like I said, that's why I created 4-Week Gut Protocol combined with the fitness program, 4 weeks for everybody, so that although that program wasn't designed for hormone health, right? Or we weren't going, okay, this is for hormone health. It's for gut health. That is the specific goal of that one. But if you start to improve that, you're going to help start to improve everything else. And when the Hormone Health Program launches later this year, I feel like you'll have a much easier time doing it, understanding it, and feeling better quicker.
I love it. That's fantastic. And by the way, like I've heard a lot of explanations of how your GI tract works, and freeze tag was by far the best explanation of how that estrogen that was wonderful, can get cycled into your body. I love it so much. Yeah.
It's important
Well,
to know it, right? Not to just say, oh, do it because I said so. It's important to understand why am I doing it, because that's what will help us stick to the healthier habits.
yeah, yeah, the mechanism of how it works.
Yeah.
Incredible. I was really excited to talk to you today, Autumn, because um, we had a very large national publicly traded company. Some people here in the US might be familiar with them, Hims and Hers.
Hmm.
They've created a platform where they are able to offer reduced price or kind of generic medications in the areas of hormone health, of weight loss, of sexual functioning. And yesterday they came out and said that they're going to be offering GLP-1s. And for those that don't know what that is, that's semaglutide or semaglutide, depending on where you want to put the accent on that syllable, and tirzepatide. And for those of you that don't know what that is, we can think of that as something that's biologically similar to Ozempic or Wegovy or Z-Pound, some of those medications that we've been hearing a lot about for type 2 diabetics to drop weight and to improve their cardiovascular health. You've built your company on providing people with actionable advice, no gimmicks, no fads. It's like, portion control, hard work. And I know people, I think we all have different perspectives about these weight loss drugs. And I'm curious from you, Autumn, how do you think about what we're seeing Oprah doing with Weight Watchers and sort of the availability of these drugs and what that means for our diet and for our fitness?
Yeah, it's a very loaded topic, right? Like everybody has so many opinions on it. So here's where I would say I fall in with it, and because I'm not a doctor, so I can only speak on the things that I feel educated enough to speak on. I think when somebody has something like type 2 diabetes and they need help controlling it, having access to these drugs that can help them is something that is needed. However, we also know that type 2 diabetes is a lifestyle disease, and it's usually coming from a poor diet. I'm saying usually, guys, I'm not blanket statementing. I understand that there are often circumstances that can lead to things. But what I'm saying is, in general, type 2 diabetes is a lifestyle disease. So I think there is a place for GLP-1s for people that need that support at the time. But I also think that taking something like a GLP-1 without addressing the root cause, being the lifestyle, is not ideal. I don't think that's necessarily healthy, because you still need to understand how to eat. It's not like I can eat a bag of cookies and just inject myself and be healthy. That's that's not health. I also think I think we're dancing in a little bit of a dangerous territory with how easily accessible they are without the support of a doctor. Like, yes, you're going online and you're getting it, and a doctor has to review or do some sort of interview with you. But a lot of times it's people can go on, put in any information. They don't necessarily have to put in their real weight. Um, and they can get these drugs sent to them. And I think that's dangerous. It's one thing when you're working with your healthcare provider and they're giving you the advice and the information about your lifestyle, about moving your body more and exercising and eating right and cutting back on the added sugars. It's another thing to just say, I don't want to do the work and let me just get this because it's going to be that quick fix. So there's never not going to be a place for proper nutrition and fitness. That's the bottom line, is that it's not just about weight loss. And even for the people with type 2 diabetes, when they're taking it, weight loss happens, but it's because they're managing their blood sugar and their insulin sensitivity. That's really what the point of it is to help with blood sugar management and insulin sensitivity. There is a little bit of an appetite suppressant in it from what I understand, but ultimately you still need to eat the healthy foods. Otherwise, the weight might come off, but you're still doing all of the other damage to the inside of your body.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I couldn't agree more. And in fact, I believe with the advent of these medications, we actually need, to your point, a healthy, nutritious diet and lifestyle and fitness and exercise, because we're not doing our body any favors if we're still not cardiovascularly fit, if we're still not focusing on fitness, if we're still not eating the healthy things. Can you lose weight? Yes. But there's so many other benefits that we just can't shortcut.
And we're seeing people who have taken it who obviously had weight to lose and saying, I didn't feel good. My energy was awful. I think Sharon Osbourne was on saying, like, even once she stopped it, she kept losing weight, and she got very tiny, very, very tiny. And I'm not quoting her, but I remember reading something that she had said where she was not happy about the fact that she continuously was losing weight despite having come off the medication. So um, you got to be careful, right? Like, we have to be careful. We can't just be like, oh, it's this popular thing, it's out in the news, and go online and da da da, and here it is, it shows up, and not without understanding the consequences of what can come with that.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. I love that. It's an incredible perspective. Well, it's a great place for us to wrap up our conversation. And I wonder, Autumn, for people who want to connect with you, want to learn more about you, um, engage in your programs on Beachbody for the first time in a long time, where can people find you?
On social media, it's at Autumn Calabrese, be it Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, but also through my website, Autumn.Calabrese.com. Come on over, join the newsletter, because I'm sending out information through there all the time. And then I also have my Good Mood Crew, which is my subscription-based membership, where every month is dedicated to a different theme that all pertains to a good mood, be it fitness or nutrition or mindset, lifestyle, but always fun things in there as well.
Love it. I love it. Well, such a pleasure and an honor to have you on the show today. I loved hearing your perspectives. I'm so excited for your new program coming out. And for those of us that just can't wait to get our hands on it, there's lots of other things we can be doing in the meantime. So thank you so much for being here. And what an honor to have you be part of the show.
Thank you so much. It was really my pleasure to be here. I loved it. And I look forward to talking to you again soon.
Me too. Bye for now.
Bye.
Hey, Flourish or Fold listeners. I mean, what an interview. Autumn has just always blown me away with her incredible combination of work ethic and also the power of positive thinking. I just love that story. I mean, I don't love it, but I just am so captivated by the story of her not being able to graduate and getting in her car and driving to LA and continuing on her journey to focus on the vision that she had had for herself from the time that she was a little girl. If you have participated in Beachbody's programs and you've had the opportunity to receive training from Autumn, you know she speaks directly to you and in the moments when you need it. So check Autumn out at beachbody.com. She's got a new program coming out. She's got a new program coming out focused on women of all ages and hormone balance. And thank you for being here. It's a joy and an honor to be a podcast host that you listen to and to be able to speak into your minds and into your hearts through your ears. So until next time, this is Dr. Taryn Marie for Flourish or Fold, Stories of Resilience. Hey there, Flourish or Fold listeners. As a mental health professional and someone who cares deeply about our overall health and wellness, what I know for sure is that our mental health doesn't just stop below our neck. Mental health is about feeling not only great in our minds, it's also about feeling great in our bodies. Now, I'm sure that you've seen a lot of information about new weight loss drugs, injectable weight loss drugs that are either on back order, completely inaccessible, or if you have access to them, so expensive that the vast majority of American people cannot get a hold of them. Well, I made it my mission to find a way for everyone to have access to these medications in a way that is affordable, because I see how life-changing they are for so many people. Now, I've spent months vetting companies, and I'm excited to announce that I believe I have found the very best. I've partnered with bodycaremd.com because they offer the highest grade weight loss medications. These are called GLP-1s. I have been to their FDA registered facility, and I've watched them make this product myself with my own eyes. Body Care MD provides the absolute best weight loss medications. And if you want to get to the weight that you have desperately struggled to get to for years with diet and exercise and simply nothing works, there's no shame in wanting to feel better, to have more energy, to have more confidence in the way that you look. You're going to go to the website, and I've got a code for you to get 20% off. It's Dr. Taryn, Dr. Taryn, Taryn 20. You'll get 20% off your first month. You will answer some questions online, and you'll be connected with a network of licensed doctors in all 50 states who will carefully review your medical records and ensure that you're a good candidate. So check out Body Care MD, enter the code Dr. Taryn 20 and receive 20% off your first order. Here's to having access to these medications that have been in short supply, and of course, having the opportunity to have the body, the energy, and the health that you've always dreamed of.